Week 15's in the books. We took that last week off, I believe, from Power Rankings. Going to get back on them this week. There's definitely been some changes, a lot of them for rather unfortunate reasons, and we'll get to those. But yeah, let's get this thing going. This is We're the Game. I'm Luke and that's Michael. Today we're going to update our Power Rankings. We're using the tier list, tier maker, tier list tool, whatever, and it looks like this. This is what we ended at 2 weeks ago. You can see is an absence at the top because we didn't really feel like any team was like, oh, for sure, this is our Super Bowl favorite. It seemed like everyone has some vulnerabilities. We'll see if that's updated today. So getting started, we're going to go with the AFC. We're going to get started with the AFC North. Michael, you ready to do this thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right, I'm going to get started with the North. There's not going to be anyone in Super Bowl favorites from the AFC North either. Spoiler. We've got two playoff-looking teams now in the AFC North, just from like who looks like they're going to win that division. They'll get some clarity. It seems like as we I feel like we said this 2 weeks ago. I feel like it's just kind of like bounce back and forth between the Ravens and the Steelers. And that's kind of happened again. The Steelers had one of their better games against the Dolphins, but the Dolphins look like they're just reeling at this point. And I mean, they just benched Tua Tagovailoa, although he played in this game against the Steelers. They just stuff is amiss there. And the Steelers, even at their best, are certainly not dominant. So I'm not really sure. They need to get TJ Watt back at some time if they want me to believe that they're going to contend with someone. So we'll see if he can come back and be healthy. The Ravens, on the other hand, had a technically dominating win over the Cincinnati Bengals, 24-0, but they ran 36 plays on offense. Lamar had rather tame stats. Derrick Henry got 100 yards off of 11 carries, which is great. And like they looked better, but I'm still not really convinced that they're a dangerous team. They're just not a bad team. So again, they could swap back and forth between where they are and being a playoff team, 3 more times between now and the end of the season. So after that, we've got the Bengals. The Bengals, while they were trending up for some time, have kind of trended down the last couple of weeks. They are reeling, and now more and more of this unhappiness, discontent, whatever you want to call it, with Joe Burrow seems to be bubbling up to the surface, and it feels like it's even causing problems in the team. That could be a misunderstanding of where the problem is, and I don't blame him for having some trouble with what's going on. Like it's totally a thing. And I don't know that they play themselves into the top 10 picks. So yeah, the Bengals, they're probably going to stay right where they are. They may win a couple more games. I'm honestly hoping they beat my Cardinals at some point. I just don't see them getting out of the mediocre, but I don't see them being bad enough to be in top 10 picks. You got the Browns as well. And the Browns, they're still the Browns. Shador will play well at times, and I like some of what he does. I wouldn't be completely shocked if they snuck out a game somewhere for the remainder of the year, but it's just not – it just hadn't happened yet, so they're still technically in the top 10 picks, and we'll see if they can get out of it. Again, just like at the beginning of the year, to be completely honest, they are a great defense and a pretty lackluster offense. So I'm going to leave them maybe right where they are. The Bengals, I mean, they're probably just slightly worse than the Dolphins, but I mean, it's close. You could have them in either spot. I think either one of these teams, I mean, there are 6 games remaining between the two teams, and I'm not sure that they win 2 games between the two of them. So we shall see. All right. What did you think of the North?
Well, I mean, we keep waiting for all of these divisions to kind of separate themselves, and here's where they are. And for sure, there's a separation in the top and bottom of this division now. And it is sad to see what's going on in Cincinnati. It just seems like, okay, well, it is what it is, kind of a feel. Baltimore's still a real quandary. Keep thinking that we were waiting for them to come back. But yeah, I think you're right on with that. These teams just keep swapping each other week to week. Looks like a fight to the finish probably is set up here in this division. And then, like the Browns, they're still figuring things out. There's some positives there, but I think they're probably right where they should be at. I wouldn't move anything else. But yeah, you're right. For this week, swapping out the Ravens and the Steelers makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, take us out to the East then and get us started out there.
Well, there was a big game in the East this week with the Patriots and the Bills playing each other head to head. One of the big questions has been how good really are the Patriots? And it was such a strange game because the Patriots in the first half were complete control. They looked phenomenal on defense. They looked great on offense. They were everything that I think they had been advertised to be. There were some second half adjustments. I think there may have been some overconfidence on some of the team from New England, and obviously the Bills came swept right back. So I I still think these teams are incredibly, incredibly close. And I think every game that they go through, Drake May and that team gets a little bit stronger. The Bills keep, I don't think the Bills can get stronger than they already are. They're a Josh Allen driven team, so they are whatever he is. So, I had kind of thought if they beat the Bills, we'd move them up into Super Bowl favorites, but they didn't. So I still think for the moment, I will probably, one could say, hey, swap them. And in fact, let's do it. Let's swap them. Let's swap the Bills and the Patriots, just to say that even though the Patriots have a better win record, they've played fewer competitive teams, and say, okay, for the moment, here's where the Bills are. This could swap back next week. This is very, very close between these two. But yeah, they run this division. Miami, as you already pointed out, has I don't even know what to call what they're doing with Tua there. I don't know if that's protection, that they're trying to protect him from taking unnecessary hits or giving other people opportunities. I don't know. Whatever they're doing, it is a sign of the end. So, that's kind of where they're going to be. This mediocre at best, looking at the Cowboys above them, I'm like, maybe a little mean to leave them there, but okay. I think that's fine for the moment. And then we've got the Jets. If the bottom column at this point in time were really for the top, this is 1 through 5 and picks 6 through 10, I would say they probably deserve to be in the bottom grouping. But if we're just saying the 6 through 10, we'll just stick them here for now. This is where they belong. I think they're the worst of this group of teams. I don't see a lot of hope in their immediate future either. They might sneak out a win here. They might, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. So that's where I would keep the East. What do you think? Any big change there? Would you make that switch with Buffalo and New England, or where are we at with that?
I don't know that I'd put Buffalo, like an actual swap like what we did. I don't know that I'd do that because it puts Buffalo in front, because of putting them in front of Denver. But I mean, we'll get to the AFC West later.
I was about to say, you have a chance to fix that.
For the moment, they have the edge over the Patriots because they won the most recent game and they just played a little better. And, I have a Patriots fan coworker, and we talked about it. And he's of course not happy with the refs, which is something I frequently am. He's unhappy with the refs, and so I get that. But the other thing, when I rewatched the game, I thought, like, man, it really felt like Buffalo just made incredible halftime adjustments, and the Patriots didn't do quite enough. So we'll see. I do really respect the skill of a team to make halftime adjustments, and maybe Buffalo just has so much continuity with the core of that team that they're able to do that a little bit better. We'll see. Like you say, it could swap a couple more times between now and the end of the season. But as for the others, I think if the Dolphins hadn't gone on that streak, they'd be in the top 10 picks right now, and I'd have to take someone else out. But they did. So they're 6-8. They're probably not going to be able to manage to get back into the top 10. That just doesn't seem realistic at this point with all the bad teams that exist. I think it makes sense. And the Jets, the Jets are a top 5 pick kind of team right now that I'm hoping sneaks out a win somewhere from the Cardinals. So we shall see. All right. Well, with that out of the way, why don't we go south then? Surprisingly competitive division. Tell me about the AFC South.
The Jaguars, I think, are the real story. They just seem to be getting stronger, especially on offense as they go through. It's the Jets, but they dropped 48 points on the Jets. And I kind of feel like Trevor really looked like he was in real control there. So I think they're definitely the team to watch in that division as they try to close out the season. On their heels, though, and like looking at the teams ahead of them there, it's hard to move them confidently above anyone per se. But I think they're right here in the hunt with all of these teams. I think the team I would be most likely to move them in front would probably have been the Lions. But I think for now I'll just leave them here. The point is that they're here. They're kind of a Cinderella in a way there, but they're it. So we'll just leave them right there for the moment. The Houston Texans, they're definitely kind of resurgent. They're coming on with their heavy defense. They got to win, but again, it's a good win. It's a good win. Confident, like, hey, that's a team you should beat. You beat them. But yeah, I think I don't know that I've looked enough recently to see exactly that, but I feel bad that they're here with Dallas. I feel like they should be at least in potential wild cards at the tail end, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's definitely a path for them, whereas Dallas, it's like it's pretty iffy on a path at this point. So I think I'd move Houston next to the Ravens. There. Then we've got the Colts, the Daniel Jones list Colts. I think it's unfortunately time for us to acknowledge that Old Man River has had an admirable performance, and who knows, they may come right back. But I'd say at this point in time, they need to move down into like the next, probably to the Jaguars for the moment. I would think is in terms of where they currently are until we see I mean, to honor their current season, we can even put them in front for a second, but I don't know that makes any sense. But yeah, I think we can just leave them there. Let's keep Jacksonville in front. I don't want to hear it from their fans. Let's put Jacksonville in front. I'll hear it from somebody. But yeah, until I think we see Phillips Rivers, and they've got opportunities coming right up to show like, yep, we're still in it. I think that's where we're at. And then last and certainly least is the Tennessee Titans, really trying to hold on to the number one pick. It's getting pretty entertaining as teams are pulling off these unexpected wins. So, yeah, see if the Titans can keep doing what they need to do here. But yeah, that's kind of how I see the South. Any intriguing changes, different ways you see it?
I mean, a couple. One quick note, it's not really a correction or anything like that, but because of weird tiebreaker stuff and how they decide draft picks, the Titans are actually the third overall pick, even though they have the same number of wins as the Raiders and the Giants. So they have currently lost it because they had an insane strength of schedule this year. As for like the Colts, like I would look at the Colts and the Texans, or the way I look at them is I would easily swap those two. The Colts, I'm a big fan of not just did you win this week, but like, have you been winning?
Oh, yeah.
And the Colts have lost their last 4 in a row. They were what, 8-2, I guess, and now they're 8-6. Phillip Rivers, again, he didn't look terrible, and the defense played about the best game it's played all year, but they keep finding ways to lose, and they've played really good teams these last 4 weeks. Chiefs, Texans, Jags, Seahawks is a pretty nightmarish schedule, but they have lost all of them. And the Texans, on the other hand, the Texans and the Cardinals were 3-5 at the same time. The Texans are now 9-5, having not lost since, and we are now 3-11, having not won since. So the Texans, I'm quite impressed by. Their offense is coming together somewhat. It's not juggernaut like the Rams or anything, but yeah, I would have definitely. But for another week, it'll be fine.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, that is interesting. Yeah, the AFC South has turned into one of the more fun, entertaining divisions. And as for the Jaguars, yeah, I'm very impressed. And we talked about them, I think, when we did our picks, and it was just, they're so complete. Like, I don't know that they have the best offense in the league or the best defense in the league or the best secondary, the what have you, but they don't have a weakness, it doesn't seem like, anywhere. So that is an impressive way to build a team. So we'll see what they do moving forward. So, all right. Well, if you're ready, let's head out to the West.
Let's do it.
Well, in the last 2 weeks since we took this off, there have been some bigger changes, and not all of them have been for they lost some games or they're just not playing as well. Some of them are for rather unfortunate reasons. And we'll just get started right there. You've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost Patrick Mahomes to a torn ACL. Now they're saying they're targeting week 1 for next year, which is the logical thing to target. And to their benefit, he's been in the same offense for the last 8 seasons now. So it's not like he needs a ton of training camp reps and things like that to be ready to go for week 1. So they should be, if he can get healthy by then, he should just come right back in pretty seamlessly, and that'll be good. But for this season, I have very little confidence in the rest of that team right now. They're only playing okay. Even their defense that was dominant the last couple of years just doesn't seem like it's the same level. Some of their players are starting to get older. Some of their good players went off to other teams, and they haven't been able to replace their production and their effectiveness quite yet. So that team seems, when I really look at it, I feel like there's some credibility to the argument that Mahomes has really been carrying that team. Now, I think Gardner Minshew, if he has the perfect game, a Minshew magic kind of game, he might carry them for a game, but not for 3 more games. So they are statistically eliminated from the playoffs in the first place. So I think they need to come down here with you. And without Patrick Mahomes, I'm very confident in putting them behind Dallas, not in front of them. So that one stinks. Sorry, Kansas City Chiefs fans. You had a pretty great run for the last 7 or 8 years, and you'll probably have another great run when he comes back and they make adjustments and bring in some great guys on the roster and all that noise. But for the time being, you can exhale or grin and bear it. I don't know what you have to do after that much dominance, because I'm a Cardinals fan and I've never had that. So then we got the Denver Broncos. They just came off that win over Green Bay, which is a great test. It was just a really good win. It was probably Bo Nix's best game as a pro, and I'm fairly confident in this one as well. And we finally get to put a team up in Super Bowl favorites right this second. Mm-hmm. So you tell me what you think of that when we get to that. But I am confident putting Denver there now. They still have the best defensive line in the league. There's probably the best defense in the league. I know Houston's up there as well, but I mean, it is right there. They're opportunistic. They can get after the quarterback. It's just chef's kiss. It's beautiful. So we'll see what they can do, close out the season, finish strong, get that 1 seed. I know with the Patriots losing, that helps them, but we'll see. Then we've got the Chargers, who beat the Chiefs while simultaneously, not deliberately, but in, putting Patrick Mahomes out for the season. Ugly win, but they got the win. They're still playing solid football, but I don't trust them. I don't trust their offensive line, and subsequently, I don't trust their run game consistently. Their defense is playing exceptionally well, but outside of that, they're putting together wins. Credit where credit's due, but I'm not going to move them up at all. I definitely, to be honest, if it were me, and it is me, so I'll just put them right. I think the Jags are playing more whole team football kind of a thing, so I'd probably move them right behind you. Then outside of that, we've got the Raiders being the Raiders. And to me, they're probably the actual worst team in football right now. I think the Titans have a weird outside shot at beating the Chiefs this week, which is insane. But obviously, I hope it happens for draft position and stuff. I think the Raiders are actually right now the worst team in football. They just don't seem like they do much of anything well. Yeah. And then they have Max Crosby. That's it. They don't actually have a good defensive line, but they have Max Crosby on it. They don't have a good offense, but they have Brock Bowers. So they are not a team that anyone is scared of right now. And maybe they'll sneak out a win somehow, but they do not look like that team. So, there's quite a bit of shakeup, I feel like, in the AFC West. And plenty of it was for negative reasons, but there was shakeup nonetheless. What did you think of the West?
Oh, I totally agree with you on the Broncos. Man, you kind of expect, all these teams that have these long, like the Patriots. You expect at some point in time somebody's going to trip them up, and they're going to, not that it's a crushing season-ending kind of thing. Although for the Kansas City it was, but you just expect it to kind of like, oh, okay, cool, there's a loss, and they just go week to week, and I really appreciate their consistency. There's lots of teams with amazing capability. They just can't do it consistently. The Broncos have done a great job of that. So, yes, I agree with you. They're easily, I think, the Super Bowl favorite in this conference. The Chargers are playing really kind of like hard defense, which I appreciate in a lot of ways. It's kind of a throwback in many ways to me. The way their defense plays, very physical. With that being said, like you were saying, their offense is kind of in this grouping of offenses. There's not a ton of offenses that I feel like are in this category of like, man, they really have to have that defense pretty much all the time because they're not going to put up tons of points. They have a very Steelers-esque kind of approach, I think, there. I think those teams are very, very similar. So we'll see what they do coming up towards the end, but they're having a great season. Kansas, of course, Patrick Mahomes. I think that makes a lot of sense to move them down to hang out with the Cowboys. And then the Raiders. I get what you're saying with the Raiders. Yeah, I'll be. It would be an interesting thing to see them beat the Chiefs. Not so sure I'm calling that, but I get it. I do get it. So yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this looks good. I think this looks good. Yeah, you're gonna head to the North next?
Yeah, I guess we'll head to the North. We'll go to the NFC and continue our trend of, again, some of these power rankings moved for rather negative reasons. Not at the same time exactly, but it happened relatively short succession, I believe, was the Micah Parsons injury. And that changes things for Green Bay. As you've commented several times, he's probably, I don't want to say directly responsible, but a huge contributor at very pivotal moments and a couple of wins for Green Bay this year. So without him being their exclamation point at the end of the game to make sure the other team doesn't come back, it's going to be interesting moving forward to see if they have some trouble. So I'm not going to take them out of playoff teams. They still have a great record. They still have a good defense, even without Michael Parsons. They still have an amazing offensive line. So I'm not ready to take them out of playoff teams.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And honestly, as I look at it right now, I can't really move them behind much. I think the Jags might be a better team. We might have to do here's like the whole shimmy. I'm going to move the Jags, or excuse me, the Packers right here, but then go straight into the next team. So Detroit. Yeah. Detroit is they're kind of like Dallas, but just a little bit more better, like a little bit more consistent. Like they've got a great offense, but their defense has been problematic. So I'm not really putting them in front of the Jags, or the Packers. I'm going to put them. In some ways, they're kind of the opposite of the Chargers, but they're right about the same level for me, where it's like their offense works amazing. They might, drop 50 on anyone, but they might drop 50 and still lose somehow. So it's they're a weird team. I love watching them. I love what they've built there. To be honest, their defense is probably just really banged up. Frequently is, but that's probably how I would adjust this. I feel like all I did just now was change your AFC South rankings. But the Bears, on the other hand, the Bears are playing consistently and playing well, and they've kind of out of left field achieved this strength that I wasn't expecting, which is their run game works. Their run game works really well, and they are right at the edge for me of being a Super Bowl contender, like an actual Super Bowl contender. You combine that with things like they're amazing at turning over the other team. They lead the league with interceptions, like not that they've thrown, but that they've taken away. They're incredible at that. Their defense is just good in general. And so I'm very pleased with the shift in the Chicago Bears organization from last year to this year. I mean, it's not my division, so I don't care that much, but listen, I'm impressed. Outside of that, you've got you got Minnesota, who is playing better, and I have a feeling they've played themselves out of a top 10 pick in the last couple of weeks. But I can't move them up that much. Similar enough to your Cowboys, they are out of the playoffs, so getting into mediocre at best is probably about right. But right this second, I think just with the stability that they have achieved in the last couple of weeks, I think that they probably go get out of there. Right about there. I mean, they did beat Dallas.
I agree.
You know what?
Yep.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to put them right behind Kansas City, and they're behind them by a nose. So, one more week and they might be in front of them. All of these teams are out. So that's not going to happen, right? But still, it's they've played better. JJ McCarthy is making good decisions, and they're putting him in a position where he doesn't need to do everything. So kudos to them. Moving into next year, it does not look like all hope is lost with JJ McCarthy, just less 9. So what do you think of the North?
Yeah, the North is a lot of fun right now. Like they're not fun when Dallas is playing them, but they're fun in general. The Bears, it's funny, at the beginning of the season, they really didn't seem to have it together at all. And so it's fun to have seen how much they've progressed. And it's back to consistency. They're playing consistently good football right now against some good opponents. And they've got some good opponents to go up against still to finish off the season. The Packers coming up, notably. It'll be a real chance for the Packers to come back and take the lead in that division. But yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun game. We may shift this whole board up next week when we see what the results of all of that are. And the Lions, of course, are still, like you were pointing out, they're still in the pace. It's amazing. There's only 5 teams that have put up 400 points. And they're of course the top of that list. But yeah, it's just they either win big or they lose, and so yeah, they're an unknown for sure. And then the Vikings, of course, I think it's good for their organization that McCarthy is progressing. But yeah, from a draft capital point of view, it's not the greatest. So it is what it is. I think I think they would rather take McCarthy proving to be a good investment over a higher draft pick this year. So I totally agree with you. They're definitely playing every bit as well or better than the Cowboys. So it's hard to leave them out of that. So no, I like it. I mean, I don't like them beating the Cowboys, but I like the rest.
Yeah, y'all did not have fun with the NFC North this year. So
Nope.
So getting to your team and the rest of the NFC East, why don't you take us there and tell us what's changed in the last 2 weeks? NFC East.
Well, there's still Philly. Philly, I feel like, is still kind of hanging around. Okay, great. They dropped 31-0. They shut out an NFL team. But again, as we've already pointed out, the Raiders are easily the worst team in football right now. And so it's like, what do you learn from that? Nothing. The Eagles really, I mean, they have one real game the rest of the season, and that's against the Bills. So, the other two games are against the very beat up Commanders. So they really don't have a lot to even use as a proving point the rest of the season, except for the game against the Bills. So I think for now we'll leave them in this group because obviously they have a history in the playoffs. So we'll leave them in this group. We've got the old Dallas Cowboys. I think missing playoffs is like the definition of this team. So let's leave them right there. We've got the Commanders who, I think made the right choice. They're not going to play, I think, Jaden again this year is what I think the word on the street is. So I think it's smart. Why risk it? What are you playing for here? So I would love for them to win 2 of their remaining games, but I don't see it. And I think they're going to kind of hang out down here in this group. I mean, truthfully, they're probably worse than a couple of these teams in their current situation. But for now, let's just leave them where they are. The Giants holding firm in their own little category, hanging out in their own little world, finding convincing ways to lose week to week. So, nope, I think I would be good with this for now. I tell you what, let's move the Eagles to the back of the contenders for now. I would say that if I saw the Eagles up against any of these teams tomorrow, I would expect they would not win those games. That would be my expectation from the way they have been playing. So we'll move them there. Sorry, Eagles fans. You're welcome, Cowboys fans. So we'll just go from there. All right. What about you in the East?
Yeah, that seems about right. I think that it's possible that they beat, like the Eagles would beat one of those teams in that if it's just like a matchup kind of thing is right. But it's true that their offense is not playing to the effect we would normally expect it to. Yes, destroying the Raiders, keeping them to 75 yards of total offense, I believe, is quite impressive, regardless of what team it is. But it is, it's the reeling Raiders, and they, to further be what I suggested, they're 28 of their yards receiving was Brock Bowers, and they had 1 sack on Jalen Hurts, and you'll never guess who it was. Oh wait, yes you will. It was Max Crosby. Like that's what they have. So, but the Eagles, they keep winning the games in front of them. I can't really hold that against them. Dallas, they still have that scenario we talked about where they need either the Eagles or the Packers to lose out, and the Cowboys need to win out to have a shot at the playoffs. But that feels like a rather, those are slim odds. So, yeah, this makes sense. Washington and New York, they're down there in top 10 pick contention. Right now, New York holds the number 1 pick if the draft was today. But stuff's going to change most likely. So we'll see. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I think they play the Raiders either this week or next or the following week. So one of those teams has to win, unless they tie, which would be hilarious. There's no that would be the best. Not for you, but it would be hilarious.
Well, regardless of who wins, their strength of schedule is not enough to push them past the Cardinals. So because they both have 2 wins, so they would still be top 10 picks. So yeah. All right, why don't you take us to the NFC South then? One of these teams is going to get forced to play a playoff game.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way of looking at it. I'm actually going to take a second to pick on the Eagles a little more there. That you were talking about the Eagles' defense with their offense, how good their defense is. Just to put their offense back in perspective and why I'm not high on them is, there's three kind of anemic offenses, and I think everyone kind of knows what they are in teams that are currently expected to go to the playoffs. One is the Steelers, who I don't think are very convincing on offense. Nobody expects them to drop 30 on a real team. The Eagles are fewer points than they are, right? And they just came off a game where they outscored their opponent 30-0. So yeah, they're very questionable on offense. They're the lowest scoring of any team heading to the playoffs. The next closest lowest scoring is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That'll be my transition here. Tampa Bay, who are used to being an offensive powerhouse and just chugging through people, here they are now, struggling considerably more. Everything's work. Everything's close. They're really holding on, and the Panthers look excited. Like, they're not winning every game. They're not playing every game clean, but they're charging hard to be the team that goes to represent the South here. So, I don't know if they can find the consistency needed to be a true wild card or playoff team and make any progress. They've got a lot of talent, and when things are working well in that team, it's a lot of fun to watch. If they make it to the playoffs, they'll easily be like the Cinderella of the whole thing. We'll see if they can make it very far, if they can get there. The Falcons are a quandary, and they have been all season. One game they look like, hey, this team's on the cusp of being a playoff team. The next game it's like, who in the world are these guys? I have no idea what to expect from them week to week the remaining of the season. So I think we could move them in front of Washington pretty happily here. I think we should also potentially move Tampa Bay back behind the Chargers at this point. I think they've got a lot of concerns right now, and they really need to have a good game this week. And then Carolina, we'll leave them right where they are, but I mean, they're that close to swapping places. And they may swap this week when they play Tampa. So who am I missing there? Oh, New Orleans. And then New Orleans. That's it. So New Orleans, I think we're right there. It's in the same general conversation. I mean, one could say that the Jets should be down here somewhere as well. And I guess the New Orleans probably has to move up to 6-10 technically because they now have 4 wins. So let's move them up. We'll put them in front of the Jets. So that's fair. I don't see them beating the Browns, but I could see them beating the Jets. So yeah, that makes sense to me. What do you think?
Yeah, seems about right. You would think with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting a bit healthier that their offense would pick back up and they'd be scoring 35 points a game again, but it just doesn't seem to be happening, and I'm not sure why. Has the league figured them out? Has there just been some regression? Because I think right now they're about as healthy as they've been all year. So we'll see. Them losing that game to the Falcons left the door wide open for the Panthers, and the Panthers were like, "Oh, hold on, we're not ready to take control of this quite yet. So we'll lose to the Saints."
Yeah,
and you could call it weird, division shenanigans. We're not really sure, and there's going to be more because the Bucs and the Panthers play each other twice in the last 3 games. So we'll get some more. I say we'll get some more definitive answers. They may just split just to infuriate us. But yeah, we may get a team go from the NFC South with an 8-9 record. I'm not super scared of either team, to be honest. It's just weird, but it is what it is. I'm rooting for the Falcons as hard as is humanly possible because they have the Rams, or the vice versa. The Rams have their pick, and I don't really want the Rams to win the Super Bowl and have a top 10 pick. So go Falcons, go. So we'll see. But then outside of that, yeah, the Saints, I don't know if they actually played a bit better this last week, or again, if it was just a division matchup. It's kind of the same for the Falcons. Was that really, did they turn a corner? Is Kirk Cousins back to playing fairly well again? Or is this just how he plays against Tampa? Because last year he had 500 yards against Tampa. So these some of these look like, oh, maybe they've turned a corner and things will, this is a sign for the future, like moving into next year. I'm just not confident that that's what this actually is. So I think you got the I think you got the South just about right. We'll get hopefully a little bit more clarity this coming week, but it could be just like when the Steelers play the Ravens. It's like, oh, well, we'll swap them. And then we'll just keep swapping Tampa and Carolina for the next 3 weeks. But yeah, one way or another, it'll be
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else on the South, I'm going to take us out west.
Let's go.
Oh, good. Well, we've got some fun stuff happening out west. Just none of it involves my team. My team is fighting for a top 10 spot. I think currently, if the draft was today, we'd be 6th. We are not playing well. We match up well against the Falcons this week, and I don't think we match up well against the Falcons, who've turned their pass rush into a real strength. And if Kirk Cousins is going to do anything like what he just did, and I've heard mention that Drake London may play as well, we're probably not going to win this game either. I have very little confidence that we're going to win again closing out. We do play the Bengals in a little more than a week, so that will be something. The Niners are one of those teams that everyone's like, well, they've got too many injuries. They won't be good, and they're like 10-4, and they just keep winning games in convincing fashion. That is a well-coached, well-run organization. And I as much as it's a division rival and all that noise, I have nothing but respect for them and the way they run their team. So if you're sleeping on the Niners and you're just like, they'll be one and done in the playoffs for sure. I mean, maybe they will, but like if you're just certain of it, I don't know why you are. That is a good team. They'll play the Colts, the Phillip Rivers-led Colts this week, which will be fun in a weird way to watch Phillip Rivers play again. But yeah, that they've got a path to not just the playoffs, but maybe somehow even not the 1 seed, but the NFC West not to win the NFC West. I don't know what words are anymore. But then you've got the other 2 real contenders in that division who aren't just way better, but they are still better than the San Francisco 49ers in my eyes, and that's the Seahawks and the Rams. And for right now, I'm similar to earlier in the year, I'm going to leave both of them here in Super Bowl contenders. Tonight they play each other, and I would be very tempted to move whoever wins this game up there with the Broncos. So for now, I'd leave them right where they are. That's not true. I think I would take Seattle if I were a betting man over Buffalo. I know you just put Buffalo there. Probably you were doing it to make me happy, and I appreciate that. But right now, I think Seattle beat the crud out of the Bills, to be honest. Sadly, I say that they put up 18 points on the Colts, or 17 or whatever it was. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but I really do think quite highly of them right now. So we'll see if Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over 4 times, maybe they win this game over the Rams. So we'll see what they do. The Rams look like the best team in football potentially, or the best team in the NFC. I think tonight will just be them confirming that or not. And if again, whoever wins, I'd put them in Super Bowl favorites. So there's not a whole lot of movement in the NFC West, even over the last 2 weeks. The Cardinals keep losing. The Rams, Seahawks, and Niners keep winning. And I'd leave them all pretty much right where they are. If you wanted to put the Niners in front of the Bears, I would understand. But it's close. It's close enough, these 3 teams, really, I feel like. So what do you think of the West?
Oh, I was half expecting you to just go ahead and push the Rams to the Super Bowl favorite here now, but you think on a different week where they weren't head to head tonight, would like maybe that would make more sense. Now we can just sit back for a night and wait and see. Like, okay, well, which one of these 2 is the right one? So it's kind of a fun thing in that. But yeah, they're both right there. Even the one who loses tonight is still right here in this group. It's amazing that those 2 teams are roughly 160 points more scored than they've given up on the season. That's wild. So yeah, it should be a phenomenal game tonight. San Francisco, as you said, I totally agree. They're really fun to watch. It's fun. It's weird to say they're fun to watch from a coaching standpoint, and how they handle things and adjust to things. It's beautiful. And like you said, with the Cardinals, they're hanging out in this group. I know you're kind of hoping to see them, slip a little bit, fall a little bit. We'll see how that works out. It's funny how teams end up sneaking wins in at this time of year to potentially upset somebody. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that this will be a much more interesting group next week, just because, like you said, somebody's got to go up into that Super Bowl contender. Yeah. Now, the best thing would be if they tied, just to mess with you a little further. So
Of course. I'll move them both up just to mess with you right back. Won't see that coming. So, all right. Well, excellent. Let's wrap this up then. We'll try not to miss another week, but things happen, so we might have to do this again in 2 weeks, and a lot will have changed again. But regardless, thanks everyone for joining us. We have fun setting these up and going through these, and we know they're all going to change, and we're wrong, and that's fine. Let us know down in the comments what you think, like why your team is different, or why your arch rival is terrible, and we didn't say they were. Whatever it is, have fun with it. We love that stuff. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers, so we appreciate anyone joining us again. Just have some fun here and there and talk some football. So I hope everyone has some great holidays coming up. Stay warm and then have a fantastic day.